Welcome to Mama Tales, a podcast that celebrates our collective motherhood journey. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. Karibu sana, if this is your first time listening, it's lovely to have you here. I recently started publishing new episodes weekly, so you have definitely come at a great time. I want to send a big shout out to everyone who's engaged with me on our social media and the many forms that I have lying around. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we are on Instagram and TikTok at Mama Tales Podcast, and I am working very hard at making those platforms valuable and complementary to this podcast. So do check them out. Thank you to everyone who submitted their interest in sharing your story. If I have not reached back to you, it doesn't mean that it's a no. It's just that, things get crazy around here. But it is well received, and I am working on figuring out how to record your story. So do not fret. I also put out a new one asking for topics that you'd like explored in this podcast. I'm planning on doing various formats of episodes, and digging deep into topics that matter to you in your parenting journey is something that I would be very honored to get into. I've received a number of really amazing topic ideas already, and I cannot wait to explore them because I think they're so relevant in this journey that we are on. So if you want to hear something or get guidance on anything specific that you feel like hasn't been represented yet, just put it down in the form and I will have it in mind. The links to all of these forms can be found in the show notes of this and every other episode of the podcast. One more thing, make sure to subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already. New issues go out every other week and feature personal essays on things that matter to us at this point and some nuggets from the podcast and the community around it. I believe I've shared this before, that the newsletter is open for contributors. So if you have a thought piece that you'd like to share, hit me up in my DMs or reply to a recent issue. You can find a link to sign up to that in the show notes of this episode and on our website. That's mamatilspodcast.com. All right, so back in episode 28, I introduced you to Tom and Kalpa, an interracial couple living in Kilifi who were about to welcome their firstborn son. Over the past couple of years, they've welcomed us into their lives through their amazing YouTube channel, Chennai to Lagos. There we have seen their love grow, we've saw them get married, we saw them bonding with their new families, and how they were preparing to grow into their own family. I've had the privilege of documenting their journey on this podcast through a series of episodes that I'm calling Baby Akinyemi. In the first part, they were a few weeks away from delivery, and I talked about their fears and expectations about being parents. Here's a bit of a recap.
I used to joke with Kalpa that, yeah, we're going to have 6 kids. So I guess we both always knew in some sense that, yeah, we do love kids and we're going to have them.
Before I got pregnant, I always had this pregnancy stage as one big block of thing that you just pass and now boom, you have a baby. And now that I'm pregnant, all these little milestones that you look at, all these things that your pregnancy is broken down into first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. Within the third trimester, there are even different things. Within labor, there's early labor, active labor, transition, pushing, all these little things that obviously I didn't know about.
Even when I think about kids, I would always skip mentally. When I think about, like, if you ask me, if you say baby, what comes to my mind? I skip the newborn thing. Like when you say baby to me, I'm thinking like from nine
For
months, 9 months towards 1 year. You know, when they can move around, crawl, and that's what I think about when you say baby. That's how I always looked at it, and I realized that wow, in this process now, I have started to realize that oh my god, there's also a newborn phase where they are extremely small, and so much goes on in between that time. And one of our friends recently had a child, and I remember being in their place and I'm like, they were asking me, do you want to carry him? I'm like, no, like, because I'm looking at how small the baby is. I'm like, no, please, I'll just walk. So I realize now, um, my understanding of the image that I had of what it means to have a child is a lot different now. I feel like now there's more of the reality that, okay, yeah, there's this phase that I was ignoring the whole time.
In this episode, we pick up from there. But before we get into that episode, it's time for the highlight of the week, a segment where we take time to reflect on the week and try and find those little moments that brought us joy. This week, I was going to say that my highlight was the fact that since we came back from our week away, the kids have slept through the night, even with all the rain. So I mentioned the rain because my daughter wasn't really able to sleep through it a few months ago. So every time it would rain, man, I just had like really bad anxiety because I'm waiting for her to wake up and scream. Away from the rain, in the recent weeks, my daughter almost always woke up and came to our room, which was a bit better because before she would wake up and scream. So her walking in our room, not too bad. And then we would have to negotiate on the terms of her going back to her own bed. My son, on the other hand, rarely wakes up. But when he does, oh man, trust me, that would be the worst thing because you will sit with him in silence, in the dark, for a minimum of 2 hours before he goes back to sleep. There's no negotiating with a 1 year old. You just sit there. If I bring him to a bed, he just moves around for all those 2 hours. So there's no way I could sleep either. It does get exhausting and you learn to wait for it every night. But since we came back, nothing. Both kids have slept like angels. Well, until last night. To make it worse, it was our son who woke up. And I just knew I had a long night ahead of me. And I did. My husband has a very uncanny way of sleeping through it all. So, yeah, not too great. But at least we got the streak of like 3, 4 nights there of uninterrupted sleep. So, I guess that can be my highlight, right? Remember that you too can have your highlight featured on the podcast. Just send me a voice note or a DM on my Instagram page, and I will be able to see it and give you a shout out on the podcast. Like I said earlier, this is the second episode with Tom and Kalpa. And for this one, I sit down with them 5 weeks after the birth of their son. They looked exactly like you would expect, exhausted, overwhelmed, but proud of where they were. I remember the awe that I had when I had each of my babies. I would look at them closely when they slept, trying to figure out who they looked like, what they liked, if I could recognize their movements to those that they had in my tummy. I was fascinated. And so are Tom and Kalpa with their little boy.
First of all, his name is Aryan Akinyemi. Aryan is his Indian name, Akinshino is his Yoruba name, or Shino for short. And I think he's a very observant character. Um, when he was still in his mom's belly, he was always very receptive to sound. Anytime we play music, he would move to the side. And, when he heard people's voices, he moved to the side. And it's interesting now seeing that personality in real life. Like sometimes he's very, very intrigued by things around him. He's intrigued by sounds. And I feel like now, because we just had like the first leap in the Wonder Week. So like he's very I feel like he's really just an observant character that's just trying to make sense of the world. There are parts of him that look like me. Today in our family WhatsApp group, they shared a picture of my mom holding me as a baby. And I'm like, oh my god, that looks like Aryan. But he does have his mommy's chin. He has Kalpa's chin all the way. He has her cheeks. I think he has my head, and
Yes, my hair.
he has Kalpa's hair. Yeah, he's he's just it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. I always look at
But
it, I'm like
but you know the amazing
come
thing
closer.
is that he looks a lot like Tom's grandfather,
Yes.
who played such a great role in
Mm,
our story. He's basically
yeah.
he sowed the seed
And
basically.
he passed away, by the way. He looks exactly like him. In fact, when my parents sent it to his brother, he was like, "Wow, my brother is back." You know.
When I last talked to Tom and Kalpa, they were very close to giving birth but hadn't really laid out plans yet. They didn't have a bag packed yet. They were still thinking about their birth plan and they were trying to figure out how they would survive the first few weeks after they came home. Not too long after we recorded that episode, things got thick because, they went into labor.
So it was after that podcast that we actually
Yeah.
got things prepared. So we got our bag ready ish, not
Yeah.
everything.
Ish.
We wrote out our birth
Mm,
plan, gave it to
mm,
our doctor.
mm.
Actually, yeah, we had an appointment. shortly after the podcast, right?
Yeah.
And so we took the birth plan to that one. So she said, anytime now. But us, we were first time parents. So we were like, we're still 38 point something weeks. So we still have 2 more weeks. You're still
Yeah.
counting on to the 40th. The next morning after that appointment.
Yeah. So I think I can take over from this point. So I'm sleeping and Kalpa just wakes me up and it's probably like 5 or something. And she says, words I didn't expect to hear until another 2 weeks. I think my water just broke. And so I get up, get off the bed, and I go to her side of the bed, and on the floor, like literally, it's like a puddle. So I was like, okay, this is yeah, like this is not even hype. So initially it was that period of you trying to figure out, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? It was a proper water break situation.
Mm.
So I go there. And the good thing is that before this, we had written up like a list of, we call it like our action plan. Basically, we wanted to have all the things that we needed to do written down in such a way that when this moment came, we don't have to start thinking. You get what I mean? We can just resort to a list. The only thing we need to think about is just go to the list so we cannot, we don't make any emotional decisions in that moment and kind of be grounded. So the first thing to do was after, we were like, if water breaks, we had all those lists of things that basically this is a signal for us to start moving. So after I confirmed that, okay, this is definitely something different. This is a puddle over here. We went, I called the doctor, and immediately after, she was like, okay, you guys start coming. And so immediately went, got things for our bag, started packing. Next thing was to call my parents, who stayed not too far, uh, informed them. They now came to the house. And yeah, from there, me, my mom, and Kalpa, the three of us now went together in a car to Mombasa. That's when we were like, wait, is this actually happening? I think it took a while for us to process what was going on. But yeah, because that whole moment where we were just running around, I got my bag, I got my camera, I got my things, and just all following like checklist. Okay, we're in the car. Okay, we're moving, and then it's that at that moment I realized that wait, oh my gosh, this thing is actually happening.
So we get to the hospital and they checked, and that's, to me, honestly, Sally, that checking process to see if you're dilated, not fun. Not fun at all. So anyway, they check and they're like, okay, it's kind of like partially broken. It's not fully broken. So it was like they called it like
A
a
rupture.
rupture of membrane or something. They're like, you can't really go back home because you need to do something within the 24 hours. So there's no infection that will happen. So, and they used the word that I really didn't want to hear and I didn't want to go through, which is inducing. And I had, before labor, I'd really read on it, and they were saying inducing leads to C-section, just leads to other complications. It's more painful, all those things. So I was just like, I don't want to be induced. So by that point, I was about 2 centimeters dilated. So they're like, well, if you go the natural route and just wait and wait, it could take more than 24 hours because it's your first labor. So we'll just have to induce. So I asked for some time. I think I really pulled and asked for like four or
Yeah.
5 hours just so I can see if my body can do its own thing. But when I was checked again, it was just still about 2 centimeters. They're like, just do this inducing thing. We're telling you it's for the best. And in that moment, honestly, as much as you go in with like, I'll say no, I'll take a stand, you're just like, these are professionals. Let me just go with what they're saying. They did this, they've studied for this. And at the end of the day, the baby's health is so important. So, yeah, the induction process began. And that's the next 15 hours of them bringing me this liquid every 2 hours to fast track the dilation. Yeah, so honestly, from 2 to like 5, I think I was just myself. I was okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I was strapped to the bed, which is annoying because I was like, so you can't really move. It's uncomfortable. You're trying to sleep through this process, you know. And then now 5 to 7, I started to see some light. The lights were flickering around me. Yep, I was kind of blacking out, in pain. But I was really trying to I was trying to go through what I prepared for, like the breathing part of things, and just the walking. Walking really helped. Praying, I had really mentally, I told myself these are things I'll have to be doing just so I don't break through this process. And yeah, 5 to 7 was where I saw this thing, what it meant to be in labor, honestly. Then at 7, I was so ready to push. I was like, I want to push. And they're like, no, but you're just 7. So you're gonna have to wait till 10. And that was now the hardest part. Being told don't push when I really, really just want to. That's the only thing I wanted to do. There's that. Yeah, it's actually such an urge. Like your body is telling you do this, but mentally you have to tell it, no, don't do this. Like it's such a battle to be doing that while in pain. And yeah, so somehow 7 to 10, I don't even know the concept of time at this point because I'm just like, take me and remove this baby because I want to push. And then they're like, no, they keep checking, by the way. The checking start to increase because, they're like, we need to be sure you're at 10. That's now when we were taken to the labor and delivery room.
Yeah, in the afternoon, early afternoon, like around
3-ish.
before 3ish, 3ish, around 3:45 was when we delivered. We got in the room probably at like let's say 2 something. Yeah.
But I
So
was still not ready
she
to
was still not
push.
ready. So this was now, imagine we've moved from the room, we've gone to the delivery room, and at that point, you're hoping that this thing accelerates, but then it's still not time. And so she's there, a nurse is around and saying, not yet. The doctor
Breathe,
comes,
don't
the
push.
doctor comes and you think that, okay, it's about to happen. The doctor is like,
She
not
checks
yet.
as
She checks
well.
as well. She's like, okay, we're nearly there, but no. And at this point, Kalpa is like, I want to push, I want to push. And they're like, not yet, not yet. And then, yeah, eventually, they gave the green light. They're like, okay, you can push.
They're
And
like, in the next
boom,
contraction, try and push. I
yeah.
was like, what?
Watch this
Watch me.
space.
Hey, I was ready.
Yeah, yeah.
And to me, I think I pushed like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, honestly, I think that the labor part was quite quick. Like, I feel like the drama was really just don't push yet.
seven to
It's
ten
not yet time. But
centimeters.
like the actual time from saying, okay, you can push, that was like the quickest. It went by quickly, probably about 4 or 5
Yeah, 4 or 5
pushes. Yeah,
times
because
pushing.
they tell you to wait. Like push, okay, chill. You're chilling. You're chilling. You're chilling. Go.
And the
Chill.
whole time they're hearing the baby's heartbeat to make
Yeah.
sure he's okay. And then at some point, I think they saw his head, yeah. But the doctor said something along the lines of, I don't know what it is, but he keeps getting pulled back.
Yeah.
Like I keep pushing, but he keeps going, back. So later they realized that apparently the umbilical cord was shorter than usual. So it was like tug of war. I was pushing, but the cord was pulling the baby back. Yeah. So I mean, and in that moment, like that's not what you want to hear. That something is pulling your baby
Yeah.
back. Like that's the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they used what's that thing called?
So it's a suction, is it a
Mm,
vacuum
yeah,
something?
yeah.
So basically as
The
the
cup
head comes
thing.
there, the cup, yeah, it's like they clasp it so as she's pushing, it's like an assisted thing,
The
just to
pull.
avoid the pullback that was happening because of the yeah, the umbilical cord. Yeah, they did it, and before we knew it,
The
like
first one actually
it's like
didn't
they missed.
work.
It's like they, I don't know what happened. All this time I was standing behind Kalpa, so I couldn't see what was going on there, but I could see the doctor. And the doctor was so amazing. She was so calm. Even when you saw her, I looked at her when she missed. Not that she missed, I don't know what went wrong, but she was so calm, collected. Asked them for something else. She got that. And yeah, when she now pushed again, this time the doctor at the same time was able to. Yeah, for a moment there was like just this brief silence, and then we hear them celebrate, and then you hear the crying, and
Labor and delivery can be very overwhelming for a mom. You are in the most pain you've ever been in your life, with no idea when and how it's gonna stop. Your body is in overdrive, following its natural instinct. You almost feel completely out of control. It must be very hard for your partner to see that, to see you in so much pain and have no way of getting you out of it. I've often wondered what goes on in a dad's mind when they see you like that.
like before, like the night before, before they introduced the whole induction thing, like I feel like my theory is that if we didn't, let's say we stayed close by and you know we didn't do the whole induction thing, or it didn't happen the way it did, I feel like the labor process would have been a bit more simpler for Kalpa. Even just seeing how she was behaving after water breaking, like I've seen people who, or I've heard of stories of people who were in similar positions, and it's like the world was ending. But Kalpa was very, very, very calm before that. So, even me, that was like, okay, we got this. Everything is good. But the moment the induction thing happened, I feel like it also enhanced pain that probably would have not been there if it was done otherwise. So I now it was like a switch because it was 0 to 100. Like one moment she was calm, the other moment you can see that she's in pain and like she's feeling like so much is happening. So she's walking around. So the thing is, I tried to see how I could help. She was doing her exercise, her walking, her breathing exercises, and at some point, I would probably come and just ask if there's anything I can do. But I realized only it gets to a point where even you have to be honest, like I'm not helping the situation if there's only so much I could do in those moments. So honestly, at some point, me, I was like, you know what? The way me I can help you is just sit down, pray for you. I'll bring out the computer, I'll play music in the background. If you need anything from me, I'm here. I think I just had to take that step back, and just be like, I honestly don't know what to do. And if I'm being real, like if I try and help, I might end up annoying you more than helping you because if somebody's in going through something and they've checked and they're like it's not yet. There's what am I going to tell her at that point? Okay, babe, just wait, just do this. She's doing all those things that I'm trying to tell her. Like it's not. If we're going to be real, it's a lot harder to really calm somebody down through words. Or like, let me see how I can be there in a different way. But when we and my mom was there, and I feel that really helped me as well because I feel like at some point I was also getting overwhelmed by everything, and just having my mom around with us, it kind of gave me this kind of like peace of mind that okay, we're okay. Things are okay. We're good because you had somebody else who has been through this as well. So yeah, that was what was happening before. Now when we're in the labor room, honestly, all I was just doing is holding her hand. My hand became her punching bag. uh, like this is the way I can help, and occasionally just talking with her, speaking to her, while just praying in my mind and just yeah, just seeing. It was honestly that part was a bit difficult for me because there's only so much. The doctors are the ones coaching her. All right, push. So like I can only say what they're saying. When they say push, I'm like babe, push. It's like you're trying to. There's only so much you can do
And
in
I'm
those
like, I
moments.
know, I'm trying.
Yeah, but I feel like the moment that I feel like probably I was able to, from my own point of view, be a lot more consistent was besides her using me as a punching bag and holding my hand and squeezing my life. Yeah, she was. Oh my! I feel like she nearly dislocated my arm, just holding, holding and trying to keep calm. But there was a moment where there was somebody else in another delivery room who had given birth. So Kalpa and her entered the delivery around the same time. For some reason or whatever, they brought the baby to our side. You know, to the I don't know that machine thing where they keep the baby. I don't know what was going on. Yeah. So on one hand, like you're like, that's not what you want to see. Like, why are you bringing somebody else's baby? But strangely, when they brought the baby and we were in the thick of it, like I feel like Kalpa and I at the same time, for us, it was like a signal of hope. It was like, oh my God, this is a baby that has just come. And we're like, wow, God, we want the same thing for us. It was like we were able to just look at that and I'm like, wow, yeah, this is what we want. And it was like this big faith boost type of thing. And so after seeing that baby, I think I smiled looking at that, thinking like, "Wow, the same thing's gonna happen to me." Kalpa, in the midst of it, she looked back. Imagine like you're in pain and all that, and she looks back at that baby, and from there, I feel like now I was able to like even talk to her like, "Okay, babe," now it kind of also helped me interact with her.
For a mom, all the pain, the anguish, the anxiety, everything seems to disappear once that baby comes out.
I was so happy. Like, I completely forgot about what happened the past 15 hours. Like, it's like all the pain just left the instant they pulled the baby out. Like, I was myself all of a sudden, and I just saw the baby, and they put him on me, and he's all wrapped up with his squished up face, and he's immediately this boy stops crying and he looks straight at me and observes the environment and does like his first sneeze, and I have no clue what they're doing down there. Like, I have no clue. I'm just like so happy that I finally have this baby, because I told you I really wanted to push. That's all I wanted. So finally, when I got the green light, and it felt like satisfying, like you were here to do one thing, to deliver this child, and this child is here, so your work is done. Like,
Yeah.
who cares what happens after this? Stitch me up, I don't know, whatever.
When I first spoke to them, they were still trying to figure out how they would manage the first few weeks with their baby. Who does the cleaning? Who prepares the food? How do they juggle this newborn at home? When I asked them about the reality of this, what actually happened, Kalpa said something that was very, very relatable.
I think, to be honest, I didn't want to leave the hospital. Because I felt safe, I felt like my baby was safe with all these people who could take care of him in case he needed help. What am I going to do carrying him back to Kilifi? And like, if he wanted something, I'm going to have to bring him back? Like, those were things that were running in my mind. And like, I'm safe here. Like, if I needed something, I could call out for help. I think a part of me was like, okay, home. Wow. Like, what happens after that? Like, and you have all these questions. So I think a part of me was like still trying to, um, I don't know, just accept that I have to leave the hospital. And I kept telling myself that the better things, don't worry, you'll go home and there are a lot of people waiting for you. And it was true, like our entire family was there, cooking for us, waiting for us. And the question was like, okay, so I'm gonna spend the night in my house, in my room, with the baby. Like, that's because the night before, we completely didn't know what to do with Aryan when he started crying.
We called
I
I
pressed that
ran
I
I
pressed
ran
that
to get the
emergency button. I'm like, I don't know why he's crying. And she came, and the moment she picked him up, he kept quiet. And she's like, "Don't worry, you're just getting to know each other. Just relax. Yeah, like he's new to this world. Just talk to him." So I was like, "What if he cries tonight? Which nurse am I going to call?"
But I think I can add, I think probably part of that was caused by the fact that we hadn't really talked a lot about what would happen when we get home. All the planning had been focused around, before getting to the hospital and yeah, baby comes. The whole idea of like, okay, coming back home, to be honest, like yeah, you do prepare in some way, but like it's one thing to think you know what you need and another thing to actually see what you actually need. So I think that uncertainty of what to expect was one of the things that probably made it hard to accept that okay, you're going home, especially the fact that we had to take a really long trip back from Accra to Kilifi. And then the roads are still being done and you're like, oh my gosh. So there's just that whole journey where you're just trying to you know just hold your baby and just get through the whole journey. And finally, when you arrive at home, um, then luckily, honestly, when I look back at it now, I realize that we didn't really know what to expect. Like we knew that we had given my sister the keys to our place. It's actually my sister that had cooked. We had given my sister the key to my place. She had gone, she went there with my brother. my brother's girlfriend, my sister's boyfriend, everyone was at the house. They had taken over. We didn't know. We hadn't had that conversation about this is what you do. So I think when we got back home, as much as there was a lot of uncertainty, it felt from my own point of view, it kind of felt a bit safer. Like, wow, okay, we're not doing this alone. There are people around. There might not be a nurse to call on speed dial, but like, we're not doing this alone. I think the first few weeks, I would call it like the honeymoon phase. It's like, um, yeah, baby cries, but like Iron is such an observant character. We thought we had a schedule in the morning. My sister would come in the morning, bring Kalpa her Mama Light, drink a snack, and then take the baby from us. Go downstairs, do all of that, and in some sense it worked. We had a bit of time to sleep a bit, then would come down and just, oh, what does he need? Like, I think we were just trying to wing it, and just the whole being overwhelmed by the fact that our son is here. There's just all this joy, people supporting us. We didn't have to think about food. Meals are being cooked here and there. Our siblings are, our parents are coming. So the first 2 weeks were really just like, this was like, it felt like a dream. So for me, looking back with what I know now, like with the weeks that followed, the first 2 weeks, that was the honeymoon phase. Yeah, it was obviously hard, but it was smooth because yeah, with what I know now, yeah.
One thing that ends up stressing a lot of new moms is breastfeeding. I struggled a lot with this with my first baby. Before I ever met a lactation consultant, I didn't even know what a latch meant. I'd read that your entire areola has to enter your child's mouth, but looking at her tiny mouth and my big nipples, that math was not mathing. Also, my colostrum was clear. Everyone kept pressing my boobs and clear liquid came out, and they would tell me that I had milk. I wasn't convinced because, it didn't look like anything I knew. As a new mom, Kalpa wasn't immune to these issues too.
Um, so the first day, like when they were teaching me about the latch and everything, he got it immediately, but on the left side, not on the right side. So figuring out the right side every time, and they told me keep changing, sides, or else one side would get engorged. So whenever it got to the right side, I would dread it because I'm like, gosh, I don't know why I can't figure out the latch on the right side. Uh, but yeah, it took me a while to get there. But I noticed that, initially the breastfeeding days were just like bliss. You're just holding the baby. He's just, you don't even know what he's doing. Like he's just probably pacifying or drinking. No clue. I was even doubting. Like, I don't think I have milk really, because there's some people who they first few days they leak the it's always all these things. So you're like, that hasn't happened to me. Like, do I even have milk? Is this child getting any milk? Am I being a
He's,
good
he's
mother?
drinking air. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also like I'm not like leaking and all those things. I wasn't feeling any sort of heaviness, so I was like, I really don't think there's milk in there. I don't know how his boy is growing. And my mom-in-law is like, Kalpa, there's milk. Trust me, there's
He's
milk.
pooping. There's
She's like,
evidence.
she keeps asking, did he poop? Yes. Did he go did he pee? Yes. He looks bigger than last time. Well, yeah, so it can't just be, you're not giving him anything else. So trust there's milk. But then over time, like, especially until I knew what cluster feeding was, there were just some days that was so hard when it came to breastfeeding, and kind of still are days where I have to, hold him and sit with him endless hours. What feel like, he just wants to sleep, feed, but all on you, like only on your chest. You cannot move him from there. He'll get very angry if you move him from there. And those are days, I don't know. Those are days that I start to feel um, a lot of anxiety, almost as if, oh my gosh, is this going to be me for the rest of my life? Am I going to be sitting on this couch feeding this child till he's like 12? Like, I don't know what happens after that, right? Like, I never had a child to know that, but people keep saying, oh, it gets better at some point, it will not happen. But then, like, 2 days later, he's back. He's back even stronger now.
Yeah.
I know, and he will sometimes he will yank, and sometimes babies do all these things, and your nipples are sore, and you're like, oh, I don't know. So one time I went to my mother-in-law, and I'm like, I don't think I can do breastfeeding. I don't think it's for me. And she's like, no, it's just today. Trust me, you're fine. Don't worry. And she was like, we'll find alternatives. If you're tired, we'll do a bottle. We'll figure that out. If you're tired, we'll get formula. This, don't worry, we'll figure it out. So it was nice to know that there are alternatives, but I was still like, at the end of the day, I'm still his source of food. So I look at the couch and I'm like, I'm going to be tied down there. I don't know. I don't know if it's even selfish to say that, but because you see mothers who are like, I love breastfeeding. Oh, breastfeeding is so beautiful. It's a time to bond with your child. And true, there are days like that. I just love him. I love holding him, watching him, really just eat with so much passion. But then the days I'm like, oh my gosh, when is this ending? Am I ever going to go to bed? Today I was sitting and really doing all the mental math. So if I pump now and the baby wakes up in 30 minutes, will he get his milk? And then when will we give him the bottle? And then when will I pump again? And then I was just like,
And then she
gosh,
called me. She called me like, "Please sit down. I have something we need to solve." And then she brings this question. So,
I'm like, figure this out for me. When am I pumping? And I was told just pump, put in a bottle, and then you can rest. So I asked Tom, where is this rest happening? When? Because when I'm resting, I'm pumping.
yeah,
And then when I'm not pumping, I'm breastfeeding. So
yeah, it's a crazy loop.
and then like you want to create stash for when you're going back to work, but the stash you have right now is what you're using to give him bottles, and his consumption is going up. So the remaining you have, you're adding to the bottle. Oh God. I'm like, this math is not mathing, guys. I told Tom, like, this is the first time I realized how I can do so many things with just one hand. So I'm typing with one hand, I'm eating with one hand, and I'm like, wow, never knew I could do this.
In the previous episode, Tom was concerned about how he would be able to juggle work and his newborn. This only got worse when his son came. Now that he was leaving the reality, figuring out how to show up for them both at home and at work is proving to be difficult.
I think in the beginning, I was quite stressed by the whole ordeal. Like when I think about it now, because like she's saying, for her, there's this loop that comes with feeding, but then me there, like there's this loop of not actually getting time to do what you need to do. I don't find a lot of people talking about this, at least from the guy's point of view, because a lot of times you think that don't worry, you there's this illusion that yeah, you'll be there, you help with the feeding, but like, you can go about your life. But for me, I found that it really wasn't the case. Like I'm not feeding him directly, but because I'm so involved with what's happening with her. I feel like when she's engaged, I'm also engaged. And it was really hard finding moments where I could even just get a break, find moments where, I could just do things that I needed to do. So I feel like now things have gotten a bit better. And I feel like my own philosophy, what has kind of helped me go through that is the realization that obviously this is just a phase. It's not going to be like this forever, but just trying to improve my relationship with time. I feel like a lot of times when we think about time, we're always trying to get that 1 hour to do something, and you're craving when can I find that 1 hour, and we put a lot of emphasis on this big time block, and we ignore the fact that maybe you might not get that hour, but hey, you might get 10 minutes, and if you treat this 10 minutes with the same type of respect that you give that 1 hour consistently, things might happen. And so for me, that's what has helped me. Every now and then, every day, I'm just, one little win at a time. And I'm gradually getting my footing. I'm getting, things are falling in place. So personally, I'm a lot happier with how things are because I can clearly even see, even in my own life, like things are moving. Like even today, from a content point of view, we're also able to shoot a video, and I'm like, who are we? Who are we? We shot a video ahead of time. Who
We're on a
are we right
podcast
now? We're on a
today.
podcast. Maybe the same I'm like a man. And today he's been so calm. He didn't like. By the way, small detail. Our son loves to bath. Like bath time is his thing. He loves it
But
so much.
yeah.
He loves it so much. I think for him, it's like a spa. Like I don't, it's jacuzzi. He loves it so much. But when you take him out, then he tells you, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But today he was even so calm. He didn't even cry. He was just chilled. We're playing music for him. So I'm like, today I'm like, wow, like it actually gets better when you think about these small little wins and you add into the fact that even work wise, I've been able to do a bit of stuff. So for me, I feel like yeah, progress is there, and it has come from appreciating small blocks of time more and giving that treating that with a lot more respect. The 5 minutes that you have, do something with it. The 10 minutes, do something with it. And I've kind of stopped craving that hour or that 2 hour slot because it doesn't really exist. It doesn't exist at the moment. It really doesn't exist. So yeah, that's what has helped.
The last question I had for new parents is if there was anything they wish they knew about before they became parents.
Can I please start this one?
Mm.
I don't think people emphasize how serious the first few weeks are going to be, in all honesty. I don't think people give new couples the reality of how hard it can be. When I think about it now, because, um, personality, just who I am, and also because of faith, like I'm very careful with my words. I don't like to talk bad about things. I will never say something in a negative way, anything that can portray a negative mindset and everything. But there comes a time where you have to not say things you don't want to say, but just be honest about situations so you know how to manage them. And I feel like, honestly speaking, people don't talk about how hectic it can be in the first few weeks. Everyone's like, yeah, baby, baby, oh. They don't talk about the fact that you don't sleep. You might actually lose like your sense of what's going on every now and then. You can have breakdowns, you know, you can feel at points depressed, you can feel overwhelmed. People don't talk about that thing. And I feel like people should just talk a lot more about these things. People should honestly just talk more. People should let that honesty about it, that honesty for me, and even things like from a father's point of view, like, listen, um, things are going to get twisted with the way you sleep. And how does that influence the way you work? Like, I don't think I hear people talk about, and I feel like everyone is just figuring this stuff out on their own. So for me, yeah, that's my thing. Like, I'm like, I really wish people talked more about a hard phase as opposed to just fantasizing about when Iron is 5 and 3 and he can walk around. Like, hey, he's not going to do that for a while. My son only likes to sleep when I squat and I sweat. For example, like it's 3 a.m., but I'm squatting and I'm sweating. I'm doing a workout in the middle of the night
In a hot environment.
in Kilifi. It's tough. It's so tough. And honestly, like not to even like the parents that we talk to. And I feel like I don't know what happens. Most people are more excited about the idea of the child being there. And in the process, even when they talk with you, we're just talking about what we're excited for, as opposed to, hey, this is what you need to prepare for. I remember I asked so many men, like fathers, like, hey, is there anything that I need to know? They're like, you know, it's not a one size fits all model. Like, trust me, there's nothing I can tell you. You're just gonna have to. Like, I got so much advice. People like, no, don't worry. It's just, and I'm like, I just wish somebody told me that. Listen, like because I feel like I've really struggled because of that. I feel like this happened at a phase when I'm trying to, I was trying to elevate so many things, from work, even our content stuff. And when you feel like you're entering such a, you're about to take off, and then this thing happens, and then you're set back. And obviously it's a blessing and all, but I'm like, I just wish people talked a little bit more about it. And I feel like now I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna let people know that, listen, listen, it's not the simplest thing. It's not the simplest thing. And if you know that, you can learn how to prepare for it. So I think for me, I'm one of those people like, fine, it might be hard, but there's always a way around it. And for me, I don't want people who just tell you it will be hard, full stop. No, it might be hard, but you can actually deal with it. So yeah.
Mm, quite honestly, I don't think there's anything that I would have been told that that would have saved me or whatever, you know. Like on the bad days. I think it's just something I had to go through, like, or I have to go through, and everybody has to go through as a new parent. Because, like Tom said, I'm very particular in what I want to listen to, and especially when people are saying, "Wait until they are 3 and you see." Wait until the terrible twos. I really reject those things because I'm like, I don't want to live my life waiting until something disastrous happens. That's not how I want to see things, you know? So naturally, even if people were like, "Ha, wait until he cluster feeds," I would have been like, "Thanks, but I don't want to wait until that," you know? So I think it's just in my personality to be like, I, whatever you'd have told me, even if you were a veteran mother of 10, 15 children, I would have taken it with a pinch of salt. And until I go through it myself, then I'll empathize and be like, I see what you said, actually. How can I change my mindset around these things? Because that's where I am right now. I'm like, okay, this is like you're saying, it's never ending. You're always going to be a parent. You're always going to have a child, just in different, stages of life. At some point, you'll have a teen, and then there's a whole other way of parenting. So I can't just be living life like wait until, you know. I'm going to have to change my mindset at some point, and that's where I am with breastfeeding.
I think the last time I asked Tom about what he was looking forward to, he mentioned something like playing FIFA with his son. Before we ended our session, I asked him again, and the answer was quite different.
I feel like I'm really excited for when he has a lot more. One of them is a lot more control of, like, his neck, and he can, like, this the whole thing of, I have to keep on holding his head because like, it's just simple things that you're like, you know what? I really look forward to a moment where he has a lot more control of his head. Like, you would have never thought that that's something you'd look forward to. Um, Something else I look forward to. So yeah, he's already started smiling. I look forward to when now he's able to like laugh um on cue. So like, luckily we're getting like smiles every day. He laughs in his sleep, but I want to see him like laugh um on camera, and like when I'm there with. There's so many things, but I feel like those are like just simple things, very simple things that I would have never thought of before, but I realized, yeah. But also looking forward to when, so right now we have just made the transition to started using the bottle. We've not really been, it's purely been breast milk. So I look forward to more sessions where I get to feed him. Like the other day, I used the bottle with him in the morning. I was like, oh my gosh, Kalpa, this is the view you get of this baby. I'm like, wow. Well, he's just looking at you there. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Yeah, so I look forward to that. And yeah, he's just 1 month. Like, because now I have a bit more deep understanding of time. Like, I know that speaking and all those things happen down the line. But I'm just looking forward to those cute, simple moments, those simple things. Oh, and one more thing, a major one. I can't wait when he can fall asleep on his own. That right there, my God. I think I should have started with that. Because these squats, listen, it's not it. It's not it.
I want to thank Tom and Kalpa for taking the time to let us into their world. Arian is now 6 or 7 months old, and they seem to have found their rhythm. Make sure to check out their YouTube channel, Chennai to Lagos. They have some amazing content that almost always has me in tears, both the emotional kind because it's also cute, or the laugh out loud kind. Remember, you too can have your story on the podcast. And if you don't want to share your story, that's fine. But if you have something that you would like covered here, just let me know. Links to these two forms can be found in the show notes of this episode. Next week, we listen to Sharon's story, a mom who has built a new family for herself many, many kilometers away from home. See you then. Bye.